And I think this becoming phase is mostly hard to be in because you're shedding a version of yourself that you have outgrown. You have to fall in love with trying and failing and then learning from that. Maybe success isn't like a thing. Maybe success is becoming someone who enjoys the journey. Welcome to another creative podcast, because apparently the internet needed another podcast hosted by a creative person. I'm Janelle, a late 20s creative navigating life one lesson, one dream, and one existential crisis at a time. Think of this less like a podcast and more like a long voice memo from a friend who's probably asking the same questions you are. So, let's get into it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. Today's episode is something that's kind of just been on the top of my mind lately. It's kind of the only thing I've been really thinking about. And what's interesting about this topic, which we will dive right into, is that it is kind of like a part two of an episode I did probably back in like last spring. Last time I checked, I think I uploaded it like 9 months ago from when I'm filming this. So think of this as a part two of what happens when you decide to like take hold of your life after you've realized that like, hey, I think I'm the reason why I'm getting in the way of my own success. And I'm referencing back to episode 18, and 10 episodes later, we're following back up. Lately, I have just kind of noticed that I've been doing a whole lot of waiting. Like, figuratively, I'm just sitting in a waiting room of life and waiting to be called to like the next big thing or whatever the next chapter of my life is. And I'm kind of tired of just sitting around waiting. I realized recently that I can't just keep waiting for like the next thing. Like, I need to get out of this waiting room. I need to get out of line and start making things happen for myself, because like no one's actually going to save me from myself except for me. So therefore, like, I have to do these things and make my life happen for myself. I think a lot of you guys can relate to me when I talk about living my life kind of like by milestones. Like, I'll be successful when I do X, Y, and Z. I'll be happy when I do X, Y, and Z. I'll be ready to do this thing when blah, blah, blah happens. Like, I'm waiting for a set of like perfect circumstances or perfect situations for things to happen or for things to be done or for, you know, these measures of success are met. And that's just honestly not realistic. I often forget that when I created this podcast, I simply made it off of it just existing. I wanted this idea to happen. I didn't care if my audio sounded perfect. I didn't care if my visuals were that great. I knew what I was capable of doing, but I just wanted this to exist so badly that I did not care that it wasn't perfect. And I often forget that I held on to perfectionist tendencies for so much of my life that sometimes when I get scared of doing something, I use that perfectionist mindset as a clutch to hold on to so I don't have to do the things I'm scared of doing. And that's a really bad habit, and I've done a lot of self-reflection lately, as we can tell. And I found a common theme, which was I have these goals and dreams and things I want to pursue. However, my actions were not aligned with meeting all these goals and achieving the things I wanted to do. So I said, okay, look, Rome wasn't built overnight. So that means I need to have day ones instead of 1 days. You know what I mean? Like, that mentality shift just had to happen. And a big hurdle I had to overcome in order to make that shift in my mind was to get over not being perfect. To stop waiting for this will be good when I blank. I'll be happy when I blank. I'll be successful when I blank. Like, that just had to go out the window. I had to throw all these limiting beliefs away so that I could actually start making moves towards the life that I want to create for myself. But then that came with like another realization. And that realization was that this was going to be a long journey. My journey towards achieving all the goals that I want to is not going to be a fast-tracked type of journey. It meant we were going to have long hours staring at a computer screen, and it meant having a lot of time reflecting upon myself. And I was going to spend a lot of my time technically just being lonely and quite literally having to spend time like with my own thoughts and feelings. And lately I found myself avoiding having like real conversations with myself because I don't want to confront uncomfortable truths about myself. And that's just like a personal thing for me. I sometimes get scared to admit certain things to myself because that means that I'm a work in progress. And sometimes we're not in the best mental headspace to accept those things, but they are necessary if you're wanting to grow. Like, things have to change. And because this is going to be a long process, I realized I need to fall in love with the process of becoming. There's this perfected version of myself that I feel like I've been waiting to come around and come rescue me from myself, essentially. But I feel like that's actually been holding me back from living the life that I know I can create for myself. So instead of postponing our joy, we are actually going to start falling in love with, well, becoming. Being in the becoming phase of your life is so awkward. All throughout my 20s and even my late 20s, and even friends who are currently going through their 30s, like, we've all discussed how weird it is to be in that in-between phase in your life where you're trying to figure things out, where you're not established in the career you want, where you just left a job that you no longer want to pursue, where you're distancing yourself from friends because you guys just don't align anymore. Like, this awkward in-between phase of life where you're just trying to reinvent yourself or create a new life for yourself. Like, this stage of just like becoming is so uncomfortable, but like, we're not really talking about it because I think it requires us to be vulnerable and honest about not being in a perfect place, where not having it all figured out, not having it all together. It's like a second waiting room, essentially, except this is like where you're filling out the paperwork and you're figuring out like what you want to do. And do you want to get this, I don't know, exam done? Do you want to test for these things? Like, this is the part where like you're making moves and you have to make decisions. And I think this becoming phase is mostly hard to be in because you're shedding a version of yourself that you have outgrown or doesn't serve you even, and you're trying to become this version of yourself that you aspire to be. And it's weird because you're not that person yet and you're like working towards becoming that, but you're also letting go of who you used to be, and you can kind of feel like you have no identity. Like, your whole identity is kind of thrown out the window and gone and lost. And that can feel really, really hard because if you're like me and you're a creative, you've probably attached so many labels and identities to your being. And it's weird when you no longer have those titles or that concrete identity attached to yourself. It kind of makes you question like, whoa, who the hell am I? And it's scary not being able to hold on to who you once were and who you thought you were. I just feel like this phase of being uncomfortable is really scary for a lot of people, and it almost prevents us from wanting to continue to take the leap and make changes. And if you're like me, this may lead you to not wanting to make any decisions and kind of freeze and, go back to waiting for things to be just right so that you can do the thing and live the life you want. But it's just not realistic. I think that's why it's important for us to fall in love with the process of becoming. And I think this is a decision that one has to make. Like, you have to be okay with being in all the messy parts of your life. You have to be okay with, breaking all the bad habits and building new ones. And you have to be okay with being patient with yourself and being gentle towards the fact that you are going to be a little bit more fragile and a little bit more vulnerable during this phase of your life. And you have to be okay with feeling all the things that come with being human. Falling in love with the process looks like appreciating all the little things that are going to help you get to where you want to be. You have to fall in love with trying and failing and then learning from that so that you can try again. A phrase that often circulates my brain, and I have to kind of use it as a mantra sometimes is you can't fail if you don't give up. And trying means that you have not given up. I am someone who I think is very resilient, and my YouTube channel is a perfect example of that. I've had it for over 10 years and I continue to post. Even if I take breaks, I don't stop, because this is something that I'm so desperate to make work, because I know I can. I know what I'm so capable of doing. I can't give up. I refuse to. And that kind of mentality is what you need to have in this phase of falling in love with the process. The other thing about falling in love with the process of where you're at is you don't really know when you're going to achieve your goal. Like, you have to be okay with the fact that growth is not going to come instantly, and it's not going to come overnight, and it's just going to happen gradually, and you may not see it for so long. Like, it's not going to always be so visible, but you have to trust yourself, and you have to trust that by you putting in the work day in and day out, that you are going to see the success you want. You're going to achieve the goals that you want. You just have to lean into it and have a little hope that it's going to work out, and you have to enjoy that whole process. And the whole point of like falling in love with this process is that you're not so focused on the end result as much as you are in the journey of getting there, because I think a lot of times we want to, well, for lack of better words, postpone our joy. And I know I keep saying that, but it's true. Sometimes I think it's like, oh, I can't celebrate right now because it's not done, or I can't, what's the phrase? You don't want to count your chickens before they hatch, like that whole phrase. But I do think that takes away from acknowledging how hard you work and all that you're doing to get to the point of success or whatever it is you're trying to reach. And honestly, I think we need to reevaluate like what success means to us, because I think so often we're trying to chase this idea of success, but what is your definition of success? Is it hitting these milestones? Is it like a physical goal, like something that you can actually see, or is it a feeling that you're chasing? I think now that I've kind of had a second to talk this out with you guys, I'm starting to think maybe success isn't like a thing. Maybe success is becoming someone who enjoys the journey. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. I feel like this is an open discussion, and I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that aspect of it. Today's topic, well, it's an extension of an episode I filmed prior to this one. It didn't just come out of nowhere. Honestly, I'm going to get a little vulnerable here and kind of share what I've been going through recently. And it's something I'm not proud of, but I've been sharing it a little bit more with the people around me in hopes that someone just doesn't feel alone if they're also in this position. But gosh, this kind of backtracks. Okay. Last summer, I was going through some stuff mentally, and I decided to put myself in the gym. I decided to work on myself physically, because like I've always been like an active person, but like never actively going to the gym. And I never really saw like real results, because quite honestly, I was always scared to work out in a gym because I just never had any experience with working out like on my own. I was always scared I was going to injure myself. I was afraid to touch weights because I just didn't know what to do. And then I found this workout app that was super easy for me to follow, and it slowly helped me build my confidence when it came to working out, which I loved. I started off not using weights to using weights, then signing up for a gym membership and actually going like 3 to 4 times a week. And this happened within a course of like a year and a half, and I kept going to the gym. And then I was in a very stressful place in my life, so where I really made the gym become part of like my therapy. I started seeing results, so I started feeling good about the work that I was putting in. And then it kind of became like a non-negotiable, because this started giving me like more confidence. I started feeling better about myself. I was dedicating at least 1 hour every other day to just focus on myself, whether it was walking on the treadmill or actually lifting weights. Like I just kept getting excited and more excited to go every time. Like going to the gym and working out is not fun, but I loved the way I felt when I would work really hard and then see results down the road. Like I just felt so proud of myself for putting in all this work, because it was something I never thought I would actually be able to do on my own. And I'm a very self-motivated person, so like this was very satisfying for me to come to. And then I continued to go through stressful times. And I stopped making time for the gym, quite honestly. I let it slip past me, and I was in the best shape of my life last summer. Like, I saw crazy results, like 4 months of like sticking to a routine that I knew was kind of working, but then I stopped. And I didn't think it was gonna have much of an impact on my life until my clothes started to not fit. And I started to notice that I looked a little different and I was moving a little different. And then I noticed none of my jeans and none of my shorts were fitting at the beginning of the summer. And I hated that. I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, I physically don't recognize myself. Like, when I looked at myself, all I saw was somebody who was carrying a lot of stress, and it was very evident in my diet, and it was very evident in my lack of movement. I noticed that I had a lot of pain when I would walk for a long time. Like, I physically was just not in a good place. I was not well, and a part of me was almost like disappointed because I put so much work into my physical well-being last year, and I felt like I just gave up on myself. I felt like I let myself down because I was no longer holding myself accountable to a routine. I was no longer being disciplined about what I was fueling my body with. And I said, you know what? Like, I can't keep doing the whole battle of one day I'll do this, and this is now day one, and now I stopped, so now we're going back to day one, and or maybe it's just gonna be like a one day type of thing. I had enough. So I ordered some weights for my house, and then I decided to sign up for a gym membership, and I've gone to the gym more times in the last 2 weeks than I have in the last year. And I was on the treadmill like 2 days ago, and I was like, gosh, I hate how exhausting it is to go to the gym. But man, do I love how good I feel knowing that I accomplished that killer workout that I was struggling through, but I finished it. I remember feeling like so proud, but then I'm like, I'm nowhere where I once was. Like, this is gonna be it's gonna be a long time till I'm back to where I was. And that's when I kind of thought to myself, like, you know what, this feeling of accomplishment that I feel right now after my workout, this sense of like pride and accomplishment that I have, I need to hold on to this, and I need to enjoy this feeling throughout the process of achieving my goals. I need to do whatever I can to enjoy every bit of this journey, or else I'm going to be miserable. I need to be happy now so that I can enjoy this journey and to get to where I'm going. Because, like, let's say goals change and things like that, at least this like journey wasn't miserable. And you know, this personal anecdote I just gave you guys is something that can be applied to anything. Whether you're a creative who's like me trying to do a podcast, like, fall in love with the messiness of it. Have fun being goofy. Have fun creating episodes that are out of your comfort zone. Have fun just making thumbnails and hoping that they do well with the YouTube algorithm, or have fun learning how to edit. Like, get a little frustrated. Try to solve a problem so you can build confidence within and feel good when you solve that problem and have a solution and gain a new skill. Just start enjoying where you're at throughout your journey and stop waiting to be happy once you finish or get to where you want to be. Like, you don't know how long this journey is going to take, so why not be present and enjoy where you're at now? Because two things can be true. You can enjoy the process of becoming and where you're going to, and like the journey that you're on to get to where you want to be. And you can also be very proud of yourself when you reach your goals or reach the success you're trying to meet. You can do both. And it's all just going to require some baby steps. Like, Rome wasn't built in a day. And I want to remind everyone who's tuning into this episode that, like, the goal is never to just wake up one day and everything be perfect. Waking up and everything being just right and good, like, that's realistically probably never going to happen. I think the entire goal really is just to, like, wake up every day and be proud of, like, the life you're building, the life you're creating for yourself. Be proud of the habits you have built and form and continue to do so. And when you feel like you want to evolve or you're ready to make a change, that you can do so feeling good about it. Like, I know for me, my goal is to just one day actually live the life that I envision for myself and to have the routines that have gotten me there, and to know that like I'm living in the life that I want and not just trying to get there and then be happy. Like I want to be happy throughout the entire process. Like I know I've reached the success I want when I'm already in it, if that makes sense. And maybe some like other food for thought to leave you guys as I close out this episode is like, maybe the secret to like becoming isn't getting to like your destination, but like enjoying the journey it takes to get there. And that's kind of my whole point with this episode. Like falling in love with the process of becoming might just be the whole point. Like that might just be the thing that takes you from getting out of the waiting room of life and becoming the person who you want to be. It's that messy in between phase. And while it's uncomfortable, while it's not an easy place to be in, it's a start. And I hope for those of you who feel a little lost and uncertain that this could bring you a little bit more peace of mind in knowing that in this journey of becoming, like, you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to be trying, and you just have to enjoy being in the present moment and know that you're actually putting your best foot forward. And it's not going to be all rainbows and butterflies like I've mentioned before, but like that's the point. You sometimes just got to enjoy where you're at in the present moment while also knowing that you're doing all the things that you want to get to where you want to be and become the person who you're trying to be at the end of the day. So this is your reminder to stop waiting for your life to begin and just go after it. Be present and enjoy the ride. That is all that I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for tuning in to today's episode, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.